In the silent skies above Devil Lake Island, an azure radiance pierced through the clouds, heralding the arrival of a force that would decide life and death. If you enjoy my way of explaining and storytelling, don't forget to like and subscribe. It really motivates me to keep creating. Another high-grade cultivator is approaching us. The elderly man cried out, his voice tinged with alarm. How could there be other high-grade cultivators on such a desolate, forgotten island? Did your subordinates leak any information? The woman snapped her head toward him, her eyes blazing with both shock and fury. I revealed nothing about our purpose here. The elderly man replied at once, shaking his head gravely. There is no way they could have told anyone. Calm yourselves. The man in blue robes interjected, his voice steady and composed. This cultivator may simply be passing by. We'll observe first and act according to the situation. Reluctantly, the woman and the elderly man steadied their nerves. At that very moment, the streak of azure light, so distant, just a heartbeat ago, closed the gap in an instant. It shot across the sky like a falling star, arriving before them with terrifying speed. Within the radiance, the faint silhouette of a man had already become discernible. So fast, all three were struck dumb, a chill of foreboding creeping into their hearts. With a few more flashes, the azure light halted directly above them. The brilliance faded, revealing a young cultivator clad in azure robes. He appeared no older than 20, an unsettling sight for the trio below. The young man gazed down at them without emotion and spoke in a cold, unwavering tone. "Is this Devil Lake Island?" Their hearts sank as one. They extended their spiritual senses toward him, and what they discovered made their expressions stiffen with shock. The spiritual power emanating from his body vastly surpassed their own. There was no doubt this was a nascent soul cultivator, and perhaps the worst kind of encounter they could have hoped for. "This is indeed Devil Lake Island," the elderly man said hastily, forcing a respectful smile as he bowed. "Do you require assistance, Senior? We would be honored to help." "Good. That's all I needed to know." Han Li's gaze swept over them. For a brief moment, he seemed mildly surprised at the presence of such low-grade cultivators. Then a faint, inscrutable smile tugged at his lips. "What brings you all here?" A tremor passed through the elderly man's heart, yet he could only cling to the excuse he had prepared. "I require a large quantity of green copper to refine several treasures, so I brought my disciples to assist with the excavation." Yet inwardly he was shaken. This young man was no ordinary nascent soul cultivator. His cultivation base was utterly unreadable, even to the spiritual sense of a late core formation cultivator like himself. Such a thing should have been impossible. "Green copper," Han Li chuckled softly, folding his arms. His gaze drifted toward the formation spells being arranged nearby, then to the green surface of the lake below. "So you're deploying restriction-breaking formations?" Just for that, the doubt in his tone was unmistakable. Cold sweat began to bead across the elderly man's brow. He had never imagined this young man would be versed in formation spells as well. Most formation masters lacked powerful cultivation, and those with high cultivation rarely bothered with such arts. Yet the formations before them were obscure and rarely seen. For this man to identify them at a glance, his knowledge was clearly profound. The woman and the man in blue robes lowered their heads immediately, feigning subservience and silently pushing the burden onto the elderly man. A flicker of anger flared within him at their silent betrayal, but he had no choice but to face Han Li alone. After all, nascent soul cultivators were rarely merciful. "Please don't misunderstand, Senior," he said quickly. "I have an interest in formation arts and wish to test these formations myself." Han Li's expression did not change. He looked down at them, and then without warning asked something that sent a bolt of terror through their hearts. "What is your connection to Manhua? I don't understand what you mean, Senior," the woman replied, raising her head. "Your cultivation methods differ," Han Li said lightly, "but each of them carries traces of Manhua's heaven-bearing devil arts. Others may not notice, but if you think you can deceive me—" He let out a soft chuckle. Seeing no way out, the blue-robed man inhaled deeply and spoke at last. "Senior, do you know our master?" Unease spread across the faces of the elderly man and the woman. "I've met him a few times," Han Li said casually. "You're here for the treasures beneath this lake. Aren't you?" Manhuzi claimed only he knew the location of his cave, but here you are. Either he lied to me, or you discovered his secret through other means. His words struck like thunder. The three cultivators froze where they stood rooted in place. A heavy dread weighed on them, but there was nothing they could do. If he were merely a core formation cultivator, they would have joined forces to eliminate him. But a nascent soul cultivator that was beyond them. Moreover, if Manhuzi had personally revealed this location to him, could it be their master was still alive? Confusion flickered across their faces. The woman was the first to recover. Forcing a smile, she said, "We are indeed disciples of Master Man. May we know your name, Senior?" "My surname is Han. As for you three—" Han Li began only to pause abruptly, his expression darkened. I didn't expect such a small island to be so lively. Who's hiding there? Come out." Before his words had fully settled, he flicked his fingers casually toward a nearby hill. Several azure threads shot forth like lightning, expanding into beams dozens of feet long as they slashed mercilessly into the hillside. The woman's face turned deathly pale. A series of thunderous explosions rang out. Half the hill was cleaved away in an instant. From within the shattered rock, a figure emerged. A towering bald man stood, revealed his entire body shimmering with golden light as though forged from pure metal. His robes gleamed like molten gold. Shock filled his face as he raised a golden shield, its semicircular barrier barely holding back the azure attacks. "Patriarch Golden Flower," the elderly man exclaimed. At that moment, a streak of red light flashed through the air. A graceful figure appeared beside the man. It was none other than Manhuzi's female disciple. Junior Marshal Sister Kai, the elderly man roared, fury and disbelief clashing in his eyes. "You've allied yourself with Patriarch Golden Flower." The blue-robed man's expression darkened as well. The truth was clear. She had intended to use them to break into the cave, then eliminate them and claim everything. You have the nerve to speak," she retorted coldly. "Senior brother Wu, didn't you arrange for the Bloodlight sect to ambush and kill me after we left? And you, junior brother Lei, joining the Woodsword Pavilion, preparing to marry into it, promising them all the treasures here as your dowry." Her lips curled into a cold smile. "If I hadn't secured allies today would have been my death. But don't bother waiting for reinforcements. Patriarch Golden Flower has already dealt with them. I served Manhuzi for years. Everything he left behind should belong to me." She leaned intimately against Patriarch Golden Flower, her voice filled with triumph. "He has even agreed to take me as his Dao companion." The blue-robed man forced himself to remain calm despite the panic flickering in his eyes. "Then why involve us at all? You could have taken the treasures yourself. If not for the troublesome restrictions beneath the lake and the fact that only you two understand them, why would I have bothered with you?" she replied bluntly, dropping all pretense. The two men's expressions turned grim. "Enough," Patriarch Golden Flower said, frowning slightly as he cut her off. "You can settle your grievances later. I wish to speak with this fellow Taoist." She fell silent at once. "Fellow Taoist," he said, turning to Han Li, "are you here for Manhuzi's cave as well?" Despite being an early nascent soul cultivator, he could not gauge Han Li's strength, and that alone made him wary. "Indeed," Han Li replied, hovering calmly in the air. His voice was cold and absolute. "Everything beneath this lake belongs to me. If you have nothing else to say, leave." Patriarch Golden Flower's face darkened, instantly, rage flickering in his eyes. Yet beneath that anger, a trace of unease stirred. Such confidence could only come from absolute strength. Suppressing his fury, he spoke in a low, dangerous tone. "You speak boldly, fellow Taoist. Do you truly intend to drive me away and claim everything here for yourself?" His voice had turned sharp, laden with unmistakable hostility. "Oh, you're interested in taking a share as well?" Han Li turned toward him, a faint smile playing at the corners of his lips. I may not know every renowned cultivator in the scattered star seas by name, Patriarch Golden Flower replied coldly, but I certainly recognize their voices and appearances. Yet I've never heard of anyone like you. Wait, you seem somewhat familiar. As he spoke, his gaze sharpened, carefully scrutinizing Han Li once more. His brows slowly knit together, a trace of confusion flickering in his eyes. Han Li's pupils shrank imperceptibly at those words. A chilling gleam sharp as drawn blades surfaced within his gaze. Since you've claimed the treasures here, I'll leave Manhuzi's cave abode to you. Let's go. After a brief pause, as though a realization had dawned upon him, Patriarch Golden Flower's expression shifted ever so slightly. Without further hesitation, he chose to withdraw. The three core formation cultivators were left momentarily stunned by this sudden turn of events. Golden light rippled outward from Patriarch Golden Flower's body, sweeping up the woman beside him as he prepared to depart without another word. But in that very instant, Han Li raised his hand without warning. A streak of azure light shot forth like a bolt of lightning, crashing toward Patriarch Golden Flower's head with explosive force. His attempt to flee was instantly thwarted. Shocked and enraged, Patriarch Golden Flower let out a thunderous roar. With a flick of his hand, the golden shield reappeared, expanding into a radiant barrier before him. Boom! A sphere of golden light detonated in mid-air, radiating blinding brilliance. Everyone present instinctively shut their eyes and retreated in panic, afraid that even a glance might sear their vision. When the light finally faded, Patriarch Golden Flower staggered into view. The golden shield before him had been damaged, its luster dimmed, but the woman behind him remained entirely unharmed. He had barely managed to withstand the attack. "What are you doing, fellow Taoist?" Patriarch Golden Flower roared, his face twisted with fury. "I've already yielded everything here to you. Why do you still attack me?" Why, Han Li let out a cold laugh. "You think I'd let you walk away after recognizing me?" Killing intent surged within him like a rising tide. Without another word, he slapped his storage pouch. A monk staff shot forth in a blur, vanishing from sight before reappearing directly above Patriarch Golden Flower. Han Li formed a hand seal, murmuring an incantation. A burst of dazzling yellow light erupted from the staff as it expanded to over 100 feet in length, descending with overwhelming force. It was as if a mountain itself were crashing down from the heavens. Even before it fully descended, the surrounding air twisted and warped under its immense pressure, emitting a sharp, piercing whine. Now that his cultivation had advanced, Han Li could unleash far greater power from the treasures of the three Kunwu masters than ever before. Below the descending staff, Patriarch Golden Flower's face contorted with shock and rage. Only now did he realize Han Li was utterly ruthless. He had already resolved to kill him, offering no room for negotiation, no chance for explanation. And the power of that treasure far exceeded anything he had anticipated. The damaged golden shield above him would never withstand such force. Faced with certain peril, Patriarch Golden Flower did not summon another treasure. Instead, he flipped his hand, revealing a golden talisman between his fingers. With a swift gesture and a strange incantation, he spun in place. Brilliant golden light burst forth from his body in dazzling waves. The monk staff crashed down. In that instant, the golden light transformed into countless fist-sized flowers, blooming into a dense canopy that enveloped both him and the woman. Yellow and gold collided. A thunderous explosion shook the heavens. When the light dissipated, only a massive crater remained. Patriarch Golden Flower and the woman had vanished. Han Li paused briefly, then gave a cold snort. His spiritual sense surged outward, sweeping across the surroundings like an invisible tide. Without warning, he slashed a hand behind him. A massive streak of azure light tore through the air toward an empty patch of sky. Thump! Golden flowers blossomed from nothingness. Patriarch Golden Flower re-emerged from space itself, clutching the woman at his side. The golden blossoms trembled violently, but they had successfully blocked the sword Qi. Han Li raised an eyebrow, a flicker of surprise passing through his eyes as he studied the flowers. His azure essence sword Qi, though released casually, was powerful enough to threaten even late nascent soul cultivators. Yet this man had deflected it with a mere talisman. That was intriguing. Impossible, Patriarch Golden Flower exclaimed, far more shaken than Han Li. How did you detect my position? Even a mid-nascent soul cultivator shouldn't be able to do that. Humph, your talisman is quite interesting, Han Li said coldly. But escaping under my watch? You're dreaming. With a gesture, the monk staff surged forward once more, roaring toward Patriarch Golden Flower. A vicious glint flashed across Patriarch Golden Flower's face. He waved the talisman again, dissolving into golden flowers, to evade the strike only to reappear moments later nearby. Then, without warning, he flung the woman aside and let out a furious roar. Han bastard, I've been yielding to you this entire time, yet you insist on pressing me to death. Do you really think that Heaven Void Cauldron makes you invincible? I'll show you my true strength. He slapped his storage pouch. A surge of black chi burst forth, carrying with it a spirit beast. Moments later, a grotesque bird over 10 feet tall emerged. Its body was wreathed in black chi, its eyes a sickly green. A fleshy, blood-red crest crowned its head, and its appearance was hideous beyond words. The moment it appeared, it shrieked harshly, fixing its gaze on Han Li with eerie intelligence. A ghost dove. Han Li clicked his tongue in mild interest, utterly unperturbed. With a casual motion, he summoned his own beast. A sharp cry rang out as a streak of black light shot into the air, revealing a small monkey with glossy black fur. The Weeping Soul Beast. The creature swayed slightly at first, still dazed. But the moment it saw the ghost dove, its eyes lit up with wild excitement. Black light surged. In an instant, its body expanded, transforming into a towering black ape over 100 feet tall. Its jagged fangs gleamed, its eyes burned with cold ferocity. Beating its chest, it unleashed a deafening roar, like a fiend descending upon the mortal world. Patriarch Golden Flower inhaled sharply. Above him, the ghost dove trembled. Its earlier ferocity vanished, replaced by unmistakable fear. Yet, Han Li flicked his sleeve. 2 small golden swords shot forth, expanding into radiant streaks of light as they slashed toward Patriarch Golden Flower. At the same time, the monk staff descended once more. Patriarch Golden Flower's heart sank. Grinding his teeth, he spat out a small golden clock. Then, with another motion, he summoned 2 jade hooks that shimmered with green light. In a flash, one of the hooks sliced cleanly through 2 of his own fingers, yet no blood flowed. With a silent incantation, the severed fingers transformed into streaks of crimson light and flew into the ghost dove's mouth. The bird shrieked as it devoured them. Instantly, black chi surged wildly around it. Its body doubled in size, its green eyes turning a violent crimson. No longer fearful, it spread its wings and unleashed a torrent of black chi, diving toward the giant ape. Meanwhile, the jade hooks clashed with the golden swords, while the golden clock released waves of sound to hold back the descending staff. Patriarch Golden Flower let out a silent breath of relief, but at that very moment, a mocking smile appeared on Han Li's face. As the ghost dove swooped overhead, releasing 2 blasts of black chi, the giant ape snorted. A stream of yellow light burst from its nostrils, sweeping upward in a flash. The ghost dove was instantly ensnared. The light churned violently. A single anguished cry rang out. Then the bird collapsed into a mass of black chi, which the ape devoured in one gulp. Patriarch Golden Flower froze. He had expected defeat, but not annihilation in a single exchange. Years of effort, gone in an instant. Before he could even recover, the golden swords erupted with dazzling light. The jade hooks shattered like fragile glass. With nothing left to stop them, the blades streaked toward him. At the same time, Buddhist chants resounded from above. A chill shot down his spine as he looked up. His face drained of all color. 7-colored Buddhist light enveloped the monk staff, its weight increasing beyond comprehension. The golden sound waves collapsed instantly. The staff descended now only 30 feet above him. No, in sheer terror, Patriarch Golden Flower activated his talisman again, dissolving into a sea of golden flowers. But this time, Hanli had already unfurled his thunderstorm wings. A thunderclap split the air. He vanished at the exact same instant. Patriarch Golden Flower had only just slipped into the void with the aid of his talisman, when a silent yet overwhelming force surged toward him from behind. A jolt of terror shot through his body. In desperate haste, he summoned the golden flowers to form a barrier at his back. But before it could fully take shape, the force struck. Boom! At that exact moment, a thunderclap roared behind him. He spun around, his face pale with shock and horror. More than 100 feet away, Han Li emerged from a flicker of golden light, slowly retracting his fist. A cold, almost mocking smile lingered on his lips. A chill colder than ice seeped into Patriarch Golden Flower's heart. This man was absolutely not an early nascent soul cultivator. At the very least, he stood at mid-nascent soul, perhaps even higher. Every treasure he wielded, every technique he displayed, eclipsed his own by a terrifying margin. All will to fight collapsed instantly. Without hesitation, he hurled his golden talisman into the air. Golden radiance burst from his body as he fled at full speed, so panicked that he abandoned the woman without a second thought. Han Li was just about to give chase, when suddenly the golden talisman shattered mid-air. A vast expanse of golden light erupted, then condensed into over 1,000 thumb-sized wasps that swarmed toward him with a deafening buzz. Han Li's brows lifted slightly in surprise, but his composure did not falter. Opening his mouth, he expelled a small cauldron wrapped in azure light. The cauldron spun once before rapidly expanding to several dozen feet in size. With a light tap of his palm, boom, blue flames surged across its surface, engulfing it entirely. The lid rumbled open, revealing a narrow gap. From within, a streak of azure light burst forth, expanding instantly into a massive net over 100 feet wide. With a single sweep, the net engulfed every golden wasp in an instant. It circled once through the air before snapping back into the cauldron like lightning. In less than a breath, the swarm had vanished without a trace. Yet in that fleeting moment, Patriarch Golden Flower had already fled over 600 feet away. His speed astonishing even for an early nascent soul cultivator. Han Li merely sneered. He did not pursue immediately. Instead, his gaze swept across the surroundings, and his expression darkened. Far in the distance, the grey-robed elder and the blue-robed youth had already retreated over 1,000 feet away, poised to flee at the slightest sign of danger. From the moment Han Li and Patriarch Golden Flower appeared, they had abandoned all thoughts of the treasure. Survival was all that mattered, and when the Heaven Void Cauldron was mentioned, they had finally realized who Han Li was. Even as core formation cultivators, as disciples of Manhua, they could not possibly be unaware of that legendary treasure and the Starfall Coalition's relentless hunt for its owner. Staying meant death, so they had begun their escape the moment the battle erupted. Now, as Han Li's cold gaze fell upon them, their hearts pounded wildly. Without hesitation, they scattered in 3 different directions, fleeing with everything they had. The woman, too, had already realized her peril. Abandoned and trembling, she fled as a streak of crimson light. Even the low-level cultivators by the lake, though too distant to see, clearly noticed their masters fleeing. Panic spread instantly, and they scattered in all directions like startled birds. A shadow passed over Han Li's face. He raised his hand and drew forth a spirit beast pouch. A sharp screech echoed as a cloud of icy white mist burst forth within it. 18 snow-white centipedes emerged. Each was half a foot long, with translucent wings and a sinister aura. They hovered above him, emitting chilling frost chi. Without a word, Han Li pointed toward the fleeing core formation cultivators. The centipedes split into 3 groups, transforming into 3 torrents of icy wind as they gave chase faster than their fleeing prey. The 3 cultivators pushed their speed to the absolute limit. But it made no difference. They vanished into the distance, hunter and hunted alike. As for the weaker cultivators below, Han Li paid them no mind. Their speed was insignificant. Even if they wished to spread word of this, it would take days. By then, he would be long gone. His gaze returned to Patriarch Golden Flower. A glint of killing intent flickered in his eyes. The thunderstorm wings on his back flared. A crack of thunder split the air. His figure vanished, leaving behind only a streak of silver lightning. Though Patriarch Golden Flower had already fled over 1,000 feet, Han Li closed the distance in mere flashes. 200 feet per step, 6, 7 flashes, and he was already above his target. Without hesitation, he raised a hand. A torrent of purple flames surged forth, condensing into a colossal hand that descended from the heavens. Ah! Patriarch Golden Flower had never imagined Han Li would catch him so effortlessly. Terror flooded his face. In desperation, he spat out a golden flying saber, sending it slashing toward the descending hand, while frantically forming seals to escape. But the purple apex flames were no ordinary power. Since obtaining them only late nascent soul cultivators or peak demon beasts could pose a true threat to Han Li. The saber struck, and was instantly encased in thick purple ice. It fell from the sky lifeless. The massive hand opened wide and closed around Patriarch Golden Flower. A scream tore from his throat. The flames surged higher, and in the blink of an eye, he was frozen into a sculpture of violet ice. Han Li's eyes flickered coldly. With a hand seal, the giant hand clenched. Crack! The ice shattered. From within the fragments, a streak of golden light shot out, his nascent soul attempting to flee. But Han Li had already anticipated this. The purple hand exploded into a sea of raging flames, trapping the escaping soul. Within seconds, it was utterly annihilated. With a casual sweep of his sleeve, the flames coiled into a fiery serpent and vanished. Only then did a faint smile appear on Han Li's face. He glanced downward and made a grasping motion. The storage pouch flew into his hand. He tucked it away, then turned his attention outward once more. The core formation cultivators and the centipedes were nowhere in sight. But he was unconcerned. The weeping soul beast had already shrunk back to its miniature form. After stowing it away, Han Li closed his eyes and sat cross-legged in mid-air. His spiritual sense spread outward like a silent tide. The world fell still. Only the distant whisper of the sea breeze remained. 10 minutes passed. A faint smile touched his lips as his eyes reopened. At that exact moment, a streak of spiritual light appeared in the distance. A cloud of icy wind swept toward him, arriving moments later. The frost dispersed, revealing 6 massive centipedes, each over 10 feet long. Faint sword marks scarred the exoskeletons of 2, evidence of a fierce battle. Han Li gave a low cry, forming seals. White light flashed. The centipedes shrank rapidly and flew back into the pouch. Soon after, the remaining groups returned, one unscathed, the other with a single injured centipede missing several legs. But such wounds were trivial. These creatures would regenerate in time. After recalling them all, Han Li turned his gaze toward the lake's center. Then, he became a streak of azure light and plunged downward. The lake swallowed him whole. Despite its ominous name, the Devil Lake was not particularly deep. At around 2,000 feet, the lake bed came faintly into view. Yet the water was an eerie, unnatural green. Even with his enhanced vision, he could only see about 100 feet ahead. Beyond that, everything dissolved into murky obscurity. Worse still, his spiritual sense was completely suppressed, unable to extend beyond his body. This lake naturally severed spiritual perception. Fortunately, Manhua had already given him the exact location of the cave, and so Han Li continued forward without hesitation, cutting through the green depths toward his destination.